Could you save your marriage by playing a video game? We're here to talk about It Takes Two, aka the marriage counseling simulator game, and just co-oping in general. I'm your host, Justin Tyler.
And I'm Kandace Tyler.
Welcome to the Cupful podcast. So we're here today to talk about It Takes Two, and no, I'm not referring to the 1995 film with the Olsen twins.
Damn.
Oh, you were hoping we were talking about the Olsen twins today?
Yes. It was actually a week before we started playing. I Googled It Takes Two with the Olsen twins to show the girls, and I couldn't find it. But the video game popped up as one of the searches, and I kind of viewed it for a minute, and I was like, cool. And then a week later, you were like, hey, you know that game I've been trying to force you to play
for the last 2 years?
Like 2 years. And then when I saw it, I thought, oh, it's that.
Yeah,
okay.
I've only been over here trying to save our marriage for the last 2 years.
Ooh,
burn. But no, we're talking It Takes Two. This is a cooperative action-adventure platforming game. We'll get into what some of those words mean throughout the episode for some of our non-video game playing audience, which is probably most of you. But this game came out in March of 2021. It was published by Electronic Arts under their EA Originals banner. And developed by Hazelight Studios, which is actually known for making cooperative games. They have another co-op game that I'm gonna pitch to you that we play later on in the episode. But just so you know, kind of some of the things that are heading up. So you can play this game on pretty much any modern console, though. It came out for the PS4, PS5, any of the Xboxes, PC, Nintendo Switch. If you got any of that, you can play this. So if you like what we're talking about and you think like this would be fun to check out, or if your marriage is in desperate need of playing something like this, go get it.
hold on a minute. I feel like you're greatly hinting that our marriage is in danger.
No. That's not what I mean. I wasn't trying to like insinuate that our marriage is falling apart. But this is like, I've heard so many great things about this game over the years. And I've just really wanted to play with you for a few reasons, not because necessarily like we need help with any of that, but I thought it would be like, I knew it was a big puzzle solving game, and I knew it would be a way to kind of like work on specifically communication tools. So that was one of the reasons that I had suggested us playing it. But also you have been, and we'll kind of get into this here in just a moment, you haven't really played a video game other than like the occasional Mario Kart or something in a long time.
True.
And I felt like this would be the perfect game to kind of get you back into it, and also kind of like ease you back into gaming. I thought it would be a good one for it.
Okay. As long as you got that disclaimer out of the way, that's fine.
But where was I? Oh yeah, I was just kind of giving some facts on the game. This game, I mean, it's pretty well known at this point. It actually won Game of the Year in 2021, which is a huge accolade for this kind of I mean, it's not like a big budget game or anything by any means, but it's done its rounds with the gaming community, and I think that it's even kind of gotten some mainstream appeal to it. And we're here to talk about it today.
Well, before I knew what kind of game it was, I did not want to play with you because I was picturing, you said it was something about solving puzzles together, and oh my gosh, can I just say something about solving like traditional puzzles just sounds horrible to me.
Are you talking about like puzzle pieces, like putting pieces together?
No, just like puzzle games, I guess. I used to love puzzle games and board games and all of that. And I know that is a big difference that we have together, is you love board games, and I have to really be convinced to sit down and play a board game, especially since we've had children, because in my mind, we're so busy all the time. When I have a moment to sit down, I don't want to play a fucking board game. Like, that's the last thing that I want to do. And I don't know, something about it makes me feel just exhausted thinking about it. And so do puzzle games. And I think that where that stems from is I'm just so exhausted all the time. And when it's time to relax, my brain is just pleading for me, please don't play a puzzle game. Please don't use your brain anymore. Just rot and don't do anything. But this game wasn't like that. It very much is solving puzzles, but it's so interactive
It's
and so
working
fun.
together to kind of do this in a way that most puzzle solving games don't.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because like as you kind of progress through the game, like there's different types of levels, there's different types of gameplay mechanics that we'll get into, and like different types of powers that you can use to solve problems. And it really is like it's a very just kind of like engaging game. So for me, like I love puzzle solving games. Like I don't know if you and I are kind of thinking of like the same types of puzzle solving games when you say that you like that's the last thing you want to be doing, but I love like sitting down and playing like a Zelda game or Resident Evil, or like puzzle solving games comes in so many shapes and sizes. Like there's a little bit of something for everybody. I just love something that kind of like makes you put some logic and problem solving into finding a solution to get past something.
I was more thinking of like crossword puzzles,
Oh,
Sudoku,
no.
like things like that. But in like a video game form, I was like, hell no.
Sudoku,
like,
the game.
the game.
I'm sure that it's out there. There's probably an app or two.
Who knows? But yeah, as soon as I saw that we were going to shrink into these tiny little characters and just run around the world and have fun, I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm playing this.
Tell me a little bit about your background with video gaming.
I used to play, I was never as much of a gamer as you are, for sure. I'm not going to claim that, but I started when I was a kid. I mean, we had all the game systems pretty much that would come out, and that it was really my older brother's big thing that he would get for Christmas every year, like whatever new game system was coming out. So I would kind of piggyback off of his experience. Usually it was him like punching me and being like, stop touching my controller. And he would like maybe sometimes let me sit and watch him play. And eventually when he got older and wasn't always around the house, I could sneak in and take his controller and like play a little bit. So it started as that. I think a lot of sisters have had the same experience as that.
So I can say from the other side of that, I was the older brother that had the video games. And so cooperative gaming, especially for me growing up, was typically like if I didn't have a friend that was around, then it was my little sister that I was playing with. And typically, I mean, because my sister was 5 years younger than me. So like, let's say I was playing a cooperative game around the age of like 10 or so. She would have been 5 years old, doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm sitting here saying like, Tiffany, you freaking idiot, like do this. Was that pretty much your experience gaming?
I have a 5-year difference with my brother as well. So we were never playing like that. He would, if he even let me play, it would be him letting me try like one turn, and then when I would die within 20 seconds, he would snatch the controller away.
See, that was the old tried and true, like if your parents tried to force you to take turns, like you know that you play a game that they're just going to die instantly at.
Yeah.
They die, don't get to play very long, and then you take forever to die. Eventually they give up and go away, and then you can play whatever you want.
That was my experience. Or I would just sit for hours and watch, because I loved watching, and that led me to he was much older than me. So when he inevitably just kind of moved out or moved on, for him, games weren't cool anymore at a certain point. Back then, once he got to high school age, he was one of the cool kids, and being a gamer, like playing games in that time period, was lame. And
it's kind of that transitional kind of age between, what was it, Gen X and the elder millennials, kind of in that transitional period.
Yeah, and he was more interested in like girls and being with his friends. Gross. And all of that. And
the real girls were playing the games with you.
I don't know.
In my day, I don't know. Things changed a little bit in like a couple of years.
Yeah. Either way, it was great for me, because when he felt like he was a loser for playing games and stopped, I could kind of take over.
Just kind of inherited.
I just inherited like the PlayStation 2 or whatever else that he had laying around. And so I found myself just passing the time playing games by myself. I never really played with anybody else, just by myself. And when I got a little bit older, I would play more in-depth, like interactive games that I would started buying myself. And the last game that I played before I stopped playing completely was Skyrim. I bought Skyrim and I got about halfway through, and then I stopped. I don't remember why I stopped, but then shortly after I had my first daughter, and I just felt like I mentioned in the beginning, I just didn't have the time to sit and play and focus on that. And when I did have free time, I wanted to use it to either catch up on things that needed to be done or to sleep or something like that. So I just kind of fell off of it and didn't have the patience for it anymore.
So, and kind of like you said, I've been playing games my entire life. I mean, from the time that I can even remember, I had inherited an Atari 2600 and a Nintendo Entertainment System from my dad. So I had them, like, they were just always in the house. And as I started getting older, I started getting more and more systems for like Christmas and stuff, mostly because my parents had split up and that was my dad's way of showing me that he loved me. So I kind of had just everything. And I always, like, video games were like the one constant that I could always turn to. And I think that that's one of the reasons that even though we fought a lot when we were younger, I think that's one of the reasons me and my sister are so close as adults is because, like, we did game. Like, that was something that we always had, and we always had as kind of like an escapism together. I've never quite gave it up. I will say at around the time that we started having kids, it got hard there for a while. Like, it was really hard to transition into like being, like, kind of living on your own and like just being able to like play for hours any game you wanted to suddenly you've got a partner and a kid in the house. It's hard to find that balance, and especially when they're younger, like they can be a little noisy, and it's hard to concentrate on playing something. I think you kind of get used to it over time. I think that's where you and I differed, is I was so determined to push through and learn how to game with kids around, to the point where by the time Milo came around, I can just remember, like, you were like I think you were working at Half Price Books at the time, and I would like just have the kids in a lot of the evenings. And I can remember, like, I just got my PS4 around that time and just playing like God of War and Spider-Man and all these like awesome, like, big games, kind of just rocking Milo and his little bouncer with my foot while I played to keep him asleep. So I kind of became a pro at the parenting / gaming kind of at that point.
I think it helps being the dad too. And I'm not stereotyping dads. Let's hear the stereotype. Well, I'm stereotyping the kids, because you can literally be in the room and I'll be busy doing something else, and they'll leave the room to come ask me something that you could have answered when you're there.
I swear, I'm invisible to them sometimes. Yeah. I can be sitting right here and they will leave. Like, they could be sitting next to me. They'll get up and leave and look for you to ask you a question.
I mean, it's to the point where I even got a text at work the other day. You were home with them. I got a text at work that said, "Can I have a snack?" And I was like,
maybe I was at a meeting or something and they didn't want to bother me. I don't know. Like, just get the damn snack.
I was like, yes, you can get a snack.
Oh, that's wonderful. So Skyrim was the last big game that you played, and that's quite the game to go out on, and especially quite the game to not finish.
I'm have to say it didn't. It wasn't the game that turned me off from playing. It was just the time in my life is the reason why I stopped playing. I wasn't old. I was like 20 years old. But I just had my first daughter kind of young. So in that point in my life, I was transitioning from kind of like elder teen, young adult to all of a sudden I'm a mom. Mm-hmm. So I just stopped playing. Honestly, after playing this game with you, that's my goal, is to go back and replay that game.
Skyrim?
Yeah, I feel like I need to now.
Yeah, that would... I almost think that I would be willing to switch with you and become a backseat gamer to watch you playing Skyrim, which will be interesting. And I'm sure you'll love the hell out of that. Me telling you, like, no, run there, go to that spot, do this.
It's funny that you said that this game is marriage counseling, because there was a few points while we were playing the game where I was like, is this it? Are we done?
Is this the end of our marriage?
because obviously I'm not very good right now. I'm not very coordinated, and you have to be very coordinated for this game. I mean, I wouldn't say the controls are very difficult at all.
No, but there's definitely some parts of the game where you have to be focused on doing dual tasks at once and knowing also where your partner is at all times. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where the communication aspect of it really comes into play.
You're not just worried about your own movements. You have to time things at the right moment with your partner. And sometimes it's disorienting because you'll be switching and looking at your partner's screen and also trying to pay attention to what you're doing at the same time. So for me, I was seeing 4 people because there's 2 of us on my screen, 2 of us on your screen. And I was getting so, I would get so disoriented and I would just die because I would end up tracking your character.
Well, no, would you start watching your character, but on my side of the screen? And then then it would be like, wait, where did I go?
I would do that. But then sometimes too, we were so tiny sometimes on the screen. We would have a bird's eye view levels sometimes, or like side scrolling levels. And sometimes our little characters were so far away, I would be thinking I was you. And then my person would just die and fall off of something.
Like falling off an edge thinking that you're me perfectly jumping up onto these platforms.
Perfectly pressing at the same time as like you were. And I'd be like, what the heck? So just times like that, like I'm not very coordinated. Justin is a lot more adept at this. So he would be just, shouting at me to like, do this, like so excited, like getting so excited about it. And my blood pressure would shoot up and I was getting pissed. And there was one time where I was just like, let me freaking do it. Like, just let me do it. I'm a big girl. I can figure this out.
Girl. Oh, it was quite the experience. But we also had moments in the game where we were able to kind of like slow down and really enjoy it together too. Like we'll get into some of those moments a little bit later on. But yeah, definitely it was a challenge. But video gaming for me, I will always find a way. I will never give it up. I will be a 70-something-year-old in the nursing home with my Alzheimer's playing video games still.
That's interesting that you bring that up because while we were playing this game, there's so many things that you can do and powers that you get through this game. Your characters at any given point, they can fly, they can ride on the backs of frogs or spiders, they can jump or have like crazy magic powers. There was just so many different powers that you would get on each level that I felt so free playing this game. It was almost like a dream because you could just do these like crazy fantastical things that you usually could only literally dream of doing. So I think it would be a great thing to do as be a gamer when you're old, because I feel like one day I'm not going to be able to walk or something, or I'll just be, I don't know, just really old and not be as able-bodied as I am now. And it might be fun to kind of lose yourself in those types of games.
Well, and just think of how even the virtual gaming experience will have changed and evolved by that point.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be able to straight up just like literally live a second life, no pun intended, in a video game. Like I could probably be immobile, not able to walk, but able to escape into these worlds. And, that's not just like elderly people that are, even now there are people who have like different disabilities, whatever it is, like this is a form of escapism. And there's so many, like even just kind of like special controllers that they have out there for maybe people who don't have full mobility in their hands, or there's so many ways for people to get involved. And it really is like, the gaming community has really kind of it's the ultimate form of escapism.
Yeah.
So.
I can totally see that after getting back into it and playing this game with you. It was such an escape each evening that we would sit down and play.
I bought this game over 2 years ago. I've been trying to get Kandace to play this game with me because I knew that she would love it. And I've been like really excited to try it myself. And there have been so many times where like maybe my sister has come over and she's like, we should play that. And I said like, no, I have to play it with Kandace. So I've been waiting patiently and I finally got you to do it. Because I just wanted to spend time with you and I wanted to play games with you. So hopefully this is kind of like a little nudge into playing more games together.
It was definitely a journey. And I already mentioned the frustrating times that I had playing with you, just getting frustrated at each other, like, me not being the best and you getting frustrated with me and me getting frustrated with you being bossy. And,
Am I that bad?
There was a few nights where I was like, you know what, I'm about to throw this controller at the screen. But I loved, the characters that we're playing, they've told their daughter that they're separating in the game, and the storyline follows them, and they kind of become these little voodoo dolls that the daughter turns them into because she's wishing that her parents would be friends again. And it casts this sort of spell on them where they turn it into the little dolls that she's made that look like them. And they're stuck like this until they break the spell. So they go on this big journey together, and they're very frustrated with each other this whole game.
Well, because their relationship, like there's so much kind of just kind of ill will, and maybe not ill will, but like they're so like jaded by marriage. They're so what's the word I'm looking for?
I would say they're just done with each other. Like they're so done.
Yeah, they, to kind of just set up the plot of this, though, like it does, this whole kind of series of events is set off by Rose, the daughter of the two main characters. So she's just been told that Cody and why am I spacing? May, Cody and May, you know, that her parents, that they're separating. And this is obviously upsetting for, I mean, I'm assuming she's like 7 or 8 years old. She's pretty young. She's upset by this, and she's created these kind of little dolls. Like she's created her dad out of clay, and her mom's this little wooden doll that I think she probably uses as coping mechanisms. Like when her parents are fighting, she's probably able to play with those and make them be nice with each other and kind of escape in that way. Through some kind of magic, you know, she cries onto these dolls, and it kind of transports her parents' like consciousness into them, and which is kind of a weird thing. Like it does show like the parents, like their bodies kind of like they're still like in the house.
That was really weird to me because I was wondering the whole time, how long did this go on for? Like how long was, because it feels like in Rose's perspective, like how was this just one day? Was it a couple hours?
I feel like it took us about 12 to 13 hours or so to beat this game.
Yeah.
So is this kid just like, are her parents just sitting catatonic for 13 hours while she's like trying to wake them up? And like, I'd be freaking out as a kid. Well,
especially the dad character, Cody, he's sitting upright at like his computer desk.
At least the mom is like laying down, so she thinks her mom's not feeling well and taking a long ass nap. But her dad's like sitting upright at his computer desk, not doing anything.
Yeah, and I felt so bad for her the whole time because she keeps going up to the mom like, I'm sorry you feel bad, Mommy. Here's your favorite song for when you wake up. And then the mom doesn't move, and she's just like, okay, what do I do? Like none of my parents are interacting with me. And it was really sad for Rose, but
yeah, but so she's Rose has obtained, and it's a little a bit of a mystery as far as how this is obtained, because the book. So there's this book that she has called the Book of Love, and it's by Dr. Hakim. And essentially, when the spell happens, this book comes to life, and this is kind of like the narrator that's like running you through this journey of kind of communicating and getting back on better grounds with each other and working as a team. So I think he claims to, like, he tells the parents, and I think this might just have been to like kind of buy himself a little bit of credibility and buy-in with the parents, that that she purchased this book specifically for them, and kind of made it seem like it was like this like well-known like bestseller book. But I honestly think it reveals in the end like that she actually picked it up out of the trash.
Yeah. She said she found it in the garbage.
That makes me think, like, how many of these books are out there? Or was this just like a very special book? Like this is like some magic book that she's picked up? Or was any of this even real? I don't know.
But either way, I mean, the parents were ultra frustrated with each other. Like their dialogue towards each other while we're playing was really hostile. And I felt like we mirrored that a little bit. Like we were pretty hostile towards each other at first.
What's interesting is, so and again, not to throw out like the typical like gender stereotypes or anything, but like most of the time, like I think men are the more typical gamers. And what's interesting is like us playing this game, we obviously I chose the dad, Kandace chose the mom. You get a choice. And even like, I thought there was a few interesting things that happened. First off, I was the first player. Like I'm controller number 1 in a traditional game. When you are controller number 1 or first player and you jump into the game, especially in a split screen, you're on the left. That's reserved for player 1. But because I chose the dad, it put me on the right and it actually put the mom on the left. And what's interesting is because in this scenario, it just happened to line up because Candace hasn't gamed in years and I game all the time. It kind of like, I think it put the mom in more of like a powerful role. Like,
yeah, so we would get different powers, each of us, and we had to each use our powers in combination with the other to be able to complete many of the tasks that we would do. And we didn't always have special powers, but more often than not, we were granted some
kind of either special power or some tool that you had,
ability.
Each level, and it changed up depending on the setting of the level.
Yeah, and you're right. I feel like the tools or abilities that they would give the mom's character were a lot more
main character. I was more of a support role. So especially with a lot of like the platforming elements of the game. So listeners, for those of you who don't play video games, when I say platformer, think of like old school Nintendo and like Mario games where you have these different levels where you're jumping from like one platform to another. That's where that term comes from. So it's a platforming game. You're literally running through trying to land on things, trying to jump from one thing to another.
We did a lot of that.
We did a lot of that. But I would say that most of the platforming, like though I did get a lot of it too, you were responsible for a lot of it, where I was more of a support role to set you up to be able to do some of that platforming.
Which is where a lot of our fighting stemmed from.
I don't know that it was fighting, but there was definitely some frustrations throughout playing the game.
It would mostly be me trying to do something that you could have probably done in one try. And so you just being very annoyed and then me being very annoyed. So it was funny though, because you're right. I feel like in a way, the people who made the game really knew what they were doing relationship wise. There was a lot of psychology that went into this game.
I really do feel like, I mean, so I joked in the beginning that this was marriage counseling simulator, but I feel like somebody has taken some kind of like textbook or resource on kind of just like building a relationship or marriage counseling, and they've made a game out of it. Like that's literally, it's taking you through this process of, like learning to communicate with one another and collaborate, learning to, like what are the things, like what are the pain points in the relationship? Is it that you don't have enough time? Is it that you feel like you've been taken away from your passion?
Yeah.
Are you not attracted to each other anymore? Like it really does take you through all of these steps, and there are levels to kind of like hit on that. And it does it in such a well-timed and like the order that it does it in. It just all works together so freaking well.
And that was the ultimate goal, is we were being put through these trials to become friends again. Mm-hmm. That's what the daughter wanted. And so this book that was alive is, letting us know you need to become friends again. And this is how you do it. And, we were kind of forced into these really difficult situations. But yeah, I loved how it played out.
So, I mean, what's interesting. So like the very first level, you were kind of, so Rose, when you told her that you're getting separated, she like grabs her dolls and escapes out her bedroom window and goes out to this shed that's in the backyard. And that's kind of like, that's where this game kind of starts. You are transformed, kind of like essentially your consciousness is transformed into these dolls, and you're playing as these little tiny, like maybe 3 or 4 inch tall dolls, for scale. So it starts out in the shed, and at this point, like it's funny because there's so many moments in those first levels where, like May, the mom character, she's an engineer, and so like there's this vacuum cleaner that's out in the shed that is one of the first boss fights that you do, and like Cody's upset with her, like, you said you were gonna fix this vacuum, and like this vacuum is so mad because it hasn't been fixed yet, and it's like really a lot of the conflict that happens in these first couple of levels really does come out of like some of these like fights and arguments and things that they said they would do. It comes out of that like real life kind of like relationship trials.
And I loved how ultimately we talked about how their roles were reversed. Like the mom got more of the main character roles. You mentioned like she's an engineer. She's the one working full time. Stereotypically, it's usually the dad that, is
And it never,
working full time if the mom stays home, and he's a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, did it ever actually state that, or did it just kind of insinuate that he's a stay-at-home dad?
He's very much a stay-at-home dad. That was some of their fights, which usually is reserved for, like, you know, the mom feeling unappreciated for everything that moms do. If they are stay-at-home moms, they stay home and they take care of the home. They take care of the kids for the most part. Their job never really stops. You know, they're just always home. And that was how, you know, the dad was feeling a lot. The mom worked so much overtime, and the dad stayed home with the daughter and felt very not seen and unappreciated.
Yeah, it really does kind of it kind of flips those roles, which again, those are not I think anymore, those are not the typical roles. Like, families come in all shapes and sizes. And I do appreciate that it does kind of like play with that a little bit. And it kind of, I don't know if this was intentional, but just like some of the things that they did, like, you know, like making like whoever chose the mom, which in more likely would have been the second player, they're the ones doing most of the main kind of like stuff. And they're on the left side of the split screen, and they're kind of taking charge of things in the early game. So I thought that was really interesting that they did that, because it kind of forced me to like learn to kind of like step back and communicate better what we need to each be doing. Whereas I think that the times that we probably did the best was when I kind of just let you kind of just do your thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes like you would just know what to do, and like I needed to like kind of just pull myself back a little bit and not try to control the situation.
I think sometimes I liked that, like just taking charge and doing it myself, because I'm like, I can do this. I'm smart. I can figure this out. I don't need him, you know, telling me what to do. But then there were other times.
And it was never that I didn't think you were smart enough to figure something out. Like, that's not what it was. Like, I could just see you, like, you were struggling with the actual game mechanics itself and controlling it sometimes, to the point where, like, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, okay, should I offer to just do this for her? But like, that's the most like,
yeah,
that's like the most dick thing that I could possibly do. So like, I held myself back from that. I never took the controller from you, no matter what.
You never did, even though there was honestly a few times where I wished I could have just given it to you, because
so it's
I was
funny that we were
frustrated.
both kind of experiencing, like, we were like, I was thinking of like, oh, should I offer to like do this for her? And you were thinking like, should I just give him the controller and let him do, like, we were
and
both
I was
kind
like,
of,
no, I can do this.
I'm glad we stuck it out.
Yeah, but there were times though where I was happy, because I'm not used to playing these games, and I feel like your mind knows what to look for in these games, and mine doesn't. Like, this was all new to me. So we would go into some levels that it was, some of the levels were very overstimulating. There's so much going on. And I would just stand there. I would make my character just stand there.
I don't know what to do.
I would just like look around and be doing weird shit. And Justin would be like, "What are you doing? Like,
Get over it.
Why are you just swimming? Like, what are you doing?"
Well, it's funny, because as we got later on in the game, and there were moments where it starts to slow down and kind of like lets you take in the surroundings and moments a little bit more. And those were like, I felt like Kandace was kind of getting lost in the world a little bit more at that point.
I mean, there's really fun worlds. There's one of the levels where we were trapped in the snow globe. Ooh, and it was like a snowy level, and we had come off several levels that were very intense.
Yeah.
And I think the game purposefully let us have a more relaxing
and it's meant
time.
to be. We will get to talking about that level here in just a little bit.
But that's
but
when
there's
I
a
kind
reason
of,
for that.
Yeah, and that's why I would kind of take advantage of that and just run off and just like ice skate, just skate and jump into the icy waters and just swim and have a good time. But there were times, even though I kind of, you know, I'm telling you, oh, it's not cool that you were telling me what to do. I do have to say there were times where I'm glad that you would take charge, and it makes me feel like when we're at the airport and I don't have to worry about anything. You just know where we're going. You know what gate we're supposed to be at. You know the time, you know everything. And I can just like smile and just walk and follow you
I'll
in the
have you know,
airport.
there is so much anxiety and over planning that goes into knowing where the fuck I'm going in those moments. It would be nice to not have to be relied on for that every single time.
I mean, I don't know. I've flown by myself. I've been to the airport by myself. So I do understand, but I
have lived a life by myself before.
I have done things, but I do love, you just naturally like to take charge sometimes, and it's just very relaxing.
Yeah, well, I got to kind of take a backseat a little bit more in this game, and it was not relaxing. But yeah, so this first level, it's kind of like, I think that the characters are starting to kind of come to terms with what they don't quite understand, like the gravity of the situation yet. And like, they see, like, they're in the shed, they've come to life, they're freaking out. They see their daughter, on the other side of the shed. Their goal is to try to get to their daughter, to like get her attention and figure out what's going on. And this book, later on, the book starts kind of like telling them like, oh, this is what you need to do. And like, they get along better. But at first the book's kind of like getting in their way because they're doing everything they're not supposed to do. Like, he's trying to help them early on and they're just not having it. So it sets you up on this whole kind of like level where I think like our powers in the first level, like I've got some nails in a quiver that I can like throw to like set up kind of platforming spots where you can like swing off of them and land on other things. And I think you have a hammer that you swing from the nails and are able to hit shit with. Yeah,
I have a little hammer head.
So there's two in that first level. There's two boss fights that both, I mean, the vacuum wasn't so hard, but the second one, the fucking toolbox, that was, I think, one of the most frustrating moments in the game for us. It was the first like real boss fight, and we really had to be coordinated for that. With the vacuum one, I think that either of us could have probably taken charge and beaten that. Like, it didn't need both of us working together. But the toolbox, like, you had to be timed perfectly with each other. You had to be communicating in order to like do certain things. And that was the first like real like struggle that we had in this game. That was
one where I almost threw my controller and I was like, I don't know if I can continue this game.
And it doesn't get much easier from there.
No, but it gets better.
Yes.
It gets better.
It doesn't get easier, but the experience does get better. And also, you get better as we go. It kind of just knowing what to do.
Did I?
And you started to get the hang of it. I think that we kind of added a little bit of extra challenge onto it in the later part of the game because we were allowing the kids to kind of sit and watch us too. So it was like an extra layer of distraction on top of us trying to like focus on this game. But yeah, so they get all the way to the other side of the shed, but their daughter Rose is leaving, which that sets them up on the second level, which is getting out of the shed, getting across their yard and getting back to the house because they remembered that they had left a window open on the top story of their home. So this is the tree level, and holy shit, there's so much that like, this is the first level where they really start implementing multiple game styles into this one game. There's a part of this level where you have like more of like an old school, like fighting, like side by side, like kind of like side scroll, like fighting game where I'm driving this airplane and Kandace is on top of this airplane, which is propelled by a pair of my boxers, fighting this, like the chief of the squirrels in hand-to-hand combat.
This level was wild. And
so nuts.
This level, we just fell into this weird realm where I don't even know where we were. I thought we were in a tree, but we fell into like a spirit realm with like floating whales.
Were they whales or koi fish or some? Maybe it was a koi pond. It was a koi pond, I bet. That would make so much sense.
But we were so tiny that I thought they were whales.
Big, giant spiritual fish that we were like floating around on. And it was just so surreal.
It was so crazy.
And cool. Do you remember what our powers were in that level?
I know.
Tree sap. I shot tree sap, and you had like matchsticks that you would then like
we would
shoot at the tree sap, and it would yeah.
And we were fighting these yellow jackets or something like that. It was like the yellow.
It was like the wasp and the squirrels were at war with one another. So that was kind of the conflict here. So you're trying to like, essentially you're trying to figure out a way to get up this tree so that you can jump off the tree and get into the window on the top story of your house. So you have to
go through these yellow jackets. We have to get away from the squirrels.
And holy shit, the final boss. Well, no, it wasn't because the squirrel chief was technically the final boss fight, which was, I don't think that was a very hard one, but the one before that, the wasp queen, we died so many times on that
It was
one.
so hard.
And that was, I think, an example like where there's just so much happening on the screen at once and you have to be perfectly in sync. And at this point, we're not in sync. Our characters are not in sync. I don't think our powers and the things that we do to support each other are quite in sync. And I think that's intentional. I think that's why we struggle so much more in the earlier parts of the game. I think that as the game goes on, I don't think it's so much like you sort of get to get in the groove of it, but I also think it starts to make things a little easier for you as the game goes on.
I can say for sure, like the first 3 levels are the hardest of anything. And yeah, it was really, really hard. I don't know about you. Does this happen to you? When we would finish a level, I would take the first breath like in so many minutes, it felt like. And then I could just feel my heart beating so fast. And I would just have to like exhale all of the stress out of my body.
There were definitely moments like that where I was just kind of like, things were moving so fast that I kind of just had to hold my breath and keep going.
Do you ever get like that? Like when you play games, like high blood pressure feeling?
All the time,
or
especially when I play like a horror survival game or something where like shit, like sometimes like shit, just like you're just running. There's nothing you can do. You're just running. And yeah, I definitely have felt that.
It's funny because it's just a game. I kept wondering to myself, why is my body having such a physical reaction to playing this virtual little game?
Because it's simulated life. And I don't think that we're in this age anymore, but like think of like our parents' generation. When we were younger, like people used to scoff at video games so much and I don't think they understood what they were capable of being. And for me, video games, like I learn a lot of stress management with video games. I learn a lot of just critical thinking and problem solving, which they don't teach enough of in schools anymore. So I'm glad that kids at least have video games to learn that shit from. Even though I feel like the day and age of people just when they can't figure something out, going on YouTube and looking it up is probably they never really get stuck. I try to force myself to, like, unless I just get so pissed off that I'm not enjoying playing the game anymore, I try not to look stuff up on games, but sometimes it happens.
I think video games now have wonderful uses. Like there were a few times where my brain hurt so bad from making it
mental
do
workout.
Things that I could only compare it to what in my mind that I would imagine like a stroke victim learning to walk again, or like learning to use a writing utensil again. That's what my mind went to. That's how hard my brain was working on this certain level where I was just exhausted afterwards. And it's like making your brain do things that it's not used to doing, like working out your brain.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it was frustrating and it was hard. When it doesn't come easy to you, it is frustrating. And when your brain works that hard, it's honestly probably a good thing. It's probably a great thing to do to your brain often to keep it working and kind of on your toes.
And I really think like the next 2 levels is where things did really kind of get more on the brain strain, I guess, kind of aspect of it. So the next part, we get into the window, which takes us into Rose's bedroom, the daughter's bedroom. So there's actually like kind of like 3 parts to this level. The first of which is like this kind of crazy pillow fort that like spans her entire room. So you're just like going through this like really cool, really ridiculous pillow fort. There's so many interactive parts to the room that you can just play with.
That was really fun.
It was really cool. It looked so cool. But then like you're trying to get up to your daughter. And I think by this point you were under the impression that because you were brought to life by your daughter's tears, you have to make your daughter cry in order to break the spell. That's what the parents think at this point. So I think that one of their daughter's like toys, Moon Baboon, overhears Cody and May talking about making their daughter cry, and he was like, not on my watch. He doesn't realize that this is her parents, and he just thinks that they have the intention of being dicks at making this little girl cry, and he's there to protect her. So he like, I don't know, he like shoots them into space, and that puts you in this whole space level where like things really start to get a little more difficult as far as the problem solving and the puzzle aspect of it. I think that your ability, like you had some gravity boots that allowed you to walk on different surfaces, which would get a little trippy sometimes, and I had the power to shrink or grow, and we had to use those in tandem to figure out a lot of these different puzzles. But
that level really hurt my brain because sometimes we would have to redo things because we didn't do them in the correct order with the certain power. So sometimes Justin's natural instinct is to run ahead and do something first. And then we would realize we fucked up and we had to go back, and it needed to be me because I had a certain power. So there was a lot of that. And I think we got better throughout the game of being like, okay, this one is better suited for your power. This one's better suited for my power. And we kind of worked that out.
I realized in this game that I had the tendency to like just run ahead often. Like by the end of the game, I would start kind of like holding back and like waiting. But like I would just like, if there was something we were both trying to get through something and you weren't relying on me to necessarily to get you past a certain point, but like say some platforming parts where we're both kind of doing the same things at the same time, I would get way ahead of you and keep going.
Well, because I would keep dying over and over until I got it right. Oh, I do need to mention the fun thing about this game is you die an unlimited amount of times and you don't get like a game over.
Oh yeah, you just as long as one of the people are still alive, you kind of just revive and come back.
Yeah.
If we both die at the same time, which happened a lot during the Queen Wasp level, if you both die at the same time, yeah, you do have to go back to a previous point or something, but it was fairly forgiving in that way.
Yeah, but for the most part, I could just die 100 times trying to get up a wall.
Yeah,
and it would be fine.
But yeah, so eventually we get to the point where we're fighting Moon Baboon. He's in this like spaceship and shooting these like laser like circles at us and stuff, and there's just stuff moving all over the screen and we're jumping left and right and all over the place, and that's one of like, it really was kind of like you have to be aware of everything on screen at the same time, and we defeat him and we get up out of space and up onto the daughter's bed, and we realize that she's not able to see us, so that kind of sets us off on this whole like, well, shit, what do we do now? How do we make her cry? And I think your character came to the conclusion that we could still physically alter things in the environment. So that sets us off on this journey. Like the daughter's favorite toy, elephant, or I think Cutie.
Yeah, Cutie
was the name of the
elephant.
Cutie the elephant was like perched up on this dresser in her kingdom. 'Cause she was a queen. We were like, whoa, if we can like mess with the environment, then we'll just destroy elephant and make her cry.
We can murder her favorite longtime best toy and make her cry. So this level was sad.
It was sad at the end, but holy shit, getting to the castle was a wild ride in and of itself. There were so many different parts to this. Like there was, we had a part where we were on a pirate ship and we were both kind of rotating in different ways in order to make the pirate ship move. And then like we had to I would be like trying to like turn us in a certain way so that Kandace could shoot. And we fought a giant stuffed octopus. There was a part of this where we were like, when we get to the castle. Oh, it was also like, we were like doing these dinosaur cranes at one point. There was kind of this like roller coaster aspect of it. It was crazy. There were so many different things that they shoved into this one level. We literally had kind of like this top down RPG style level too, where we had like magic powers and we were like moving through like this like kind of like dungeon style part of the castle. And
this was one of the levels that was so fun, but I did find playing with you very difficult.
Yeah.
It was the pirate ship when we were responsible for rotating the ships in different ways.
So essentially, I think Kandace, your character controlled the left side of the ship and mine was the right, and we had to rotate in different ways in order to turn or go forward, similar to like a tandem kayak.
Yeah,
kind of what you
exactly like that. And that hurt my brain. First of all, that my brain was already hurt trying to figure that out. On top of we had to like do this together, and I think us shouting at each other back and forth like, do this, and I'm like, I am doing this. Like I'm just not doing it good. That was a hard level for me where I was like, ooh, this is a rough one. But I think one thing that I found really funny is I could never find you. Like I would always lose you and be like, where are you? I can't find you. And you'd be like, just find the icon. Just
find the icon, or press in on L3 and it'll circle in on my direction.
In on the direction.
And you're like, what is L3?
I'm just like, just remind me which button is that. That was another thing that I forgot to tell you.
Like, yeah, you don't have like I've been playing like PlayStation since I was a small child. Like I know X's down, triangles up, squares left, it circles right. Like I know this by heart.
And you know what? That is something that I knew at one point in my life.
But you haven't used it in a long time.
Haven't done it in a long time. And when there would be little mini games of like DDR style
there was like
button pressing.
Like kind of a rhythm style game where we had to like match up, kind of like DDR Guitar Hero. We had to like match up the note or whatever the prompt that you were hitting to the beat of the music and everything. And Candace was just like, I don't know which one triangle is.
Well, then I would have to look down at the controller, but then I would miss what was going on the screen. I'd be like, no, why can't my brain just remember where all the buttons are?
Oh,
it was great.
It was really cool. So
and I would try to not let you see me look down at the controller to see which button it was. Like, wait, which one is X?
So eventually though, we get to Queen Cutie, the elephant, and I was anticipating this being some like crazy ass boss fight, and it turns out no, this was this pathetic elephant that we just basically murdered and shoved off of this dresser.
We were dragging and ripping and tearing
like limbs and ears
this elephant apart.
It was so
and then
sad.
We just end up shoving it off the dresser. And the daughter just finds it on the floor and is just sobbing. And
we're sitting here like it's like raining on us. Like we're like
and we're
basking
cheering
the in the tears of our daughter.
Yeah, the characters are like, yeah, we did it.
We did it.
You keep crying.
Well, now we can get
Rose.
back to our bodies and get that divorce.
Yeah, but psych, it didn't.
Oh, apparently that's not what was supposed to break the spell. How could we be so naive? So I think that was kind of like that was the real turning point in the game where I think that the first half of the game was harder than the second half in certain ways, just because like it didn't have us working together as much. But I think that like, first off, I think the difficulty did start to get easier just naturally with the game. But I think that we also had abilities that supported one another better in the levels coming up. So that kind of turns into this whole like, okay, well, the book will tell us what we need to do in order to get back to our bodies. If we go through, essentially, this is where the marriage counseling part of it comes in. We have to, in order, like, there's this like piece of paper, like this letter that the daughter had written to us that had like, I think it had like a wish on it. Like she wished that we would do something, and like we weren't able to read the last half of it. So in order to find out, we had to, the book ripped this letter up into 4 pieces, and we had to get through these different levels to obtain a piece to this letter. So the first level that it shoots us into, we're in this cuckoo clock, and it's based off like essentially time becomes a major theme in this part of it. Whereas Cody feels that May doesn't give enough time to the family. And that was kind of kind of a running theme throughout. They kind of like hit on that, but then they literally throw us into this level where we're trying to fix this cuckoo clock that has like these versions of us kind of like leading on different tracks. Like we have to get them to a point where they come together.
I liked my power in this one because May, the mom, states that, well, what do you want from me? Do you want me to be 2 places at once? I'm working all this overtime. How do you expect me to support our family and also be everywhere that you want me? So the book takes this very literally and gives me a cloning power. Mm-hmm. And so I got to just drop little clones in certain places that would allow me to teleport. And that would help us on a lot of our missions. And what was your power?
I was able to kind of like slow down and rewind time.
Okay, that's right.
So yeah, there were definitely some difficult moments. There was one scene where we were trying to get up toward like the face of the clock, and there was just like this explosion that happened, and we were moving across all these different pieces of like exploding parts, and I was having to like fast forward and rewind time over and over again to get you like from one platform to another.
It was super trippy.
Yeah.
Like really, really
lots
trippy.
of cool like tracks. Like it felt like kind of like a rail kind of game where like you're like on these like different rails, like moving through the level, and it got pretty intense. So yeah, time was the first kind of piece to this counseling. The second of which, I think this might be my favorite level though. This next one, the snow globe. Candace had already mentioned the snow globe earlier, and just how much fun we had in this world. This was brought about by this concept of us needing to refine our attraction.
Was it the attraction?
Yeah, it
level?
was the
Okay.
attraction level. So we were given the powers of magnetism. We each had a different pole
was
of
so
a magnet
fun.
that would like either repel or attract to different things, depending on like different color coded things in the level. And but it was the first time in the game where like it really like which is funny because you just got off of a time level, and that was probably one of the craziest, like most fast paced levels that we actually had. Things slow down almost to a halt at times, where we kind of just forgot, like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be off doing this. Like instead we would be like, riding a turtle or
Yeah, we were in this adorable little snow globe world, like a winter wonderland, and it was was it their first, was it their honeymoon or their first trip together?
I think that they had been there multiple times, because I think that it was revealed that this one spot was where he had proposed.
Okay, that's
And they
right.
had this whole scene like talking about their proposal and how like he wanted so badly for it to be perfect that he ended up kind of messing it up a little bit. And like that imperfection is actually what like she found endearing and perfect about it.
Well, that was
That he kept with it and kept like pushed through.
And that was the cute part about this level is for the first time, the dialogue between the characters started to be like a lot sweeter, and they started kind of flirting in certain ways with each other.
Supporting one another.
Yeah, supporting each other, and just everything slowed down. It was fun. We could really interact with the world.
There were so many activities and mini games in this world. And they were, like I said, like we would literally like, cause as you kind of go through this, the first part of it, you're like going through this town and you're trying to like break off all the ice so that the town comes back to life. And it's closer to like what you remember it being like when you were vacationing there. And as more and more of the town comes to life, there's just so many activities to do. Like you can walk around throwing snowballs at each other. You can ice skate, you can sled, you can like, there's so many, just like we got lost in all of these.
We can bobsled race each other.
Yeah, there was, I think there was a Ferris wheel. There was like just all this cool shit that you could do in this town. Like we got so distracted by this. It was honestly like I would have been fine like hanging out. Like we should probably revisit the game and just hang out in that town, because I know that there's a lot of things that we did not find there.
So how do games work? If you try and get back on the game, can you just visit any level you want?
It depends on the game, but in this one, yeah, I saw that you were able to go through and select the level that you want to.
Can you only do that after you've beaten it?
Typically that's how it works. Like you can only go back and replay a level that you've gotten past or like cleared already. So yeah, you're able to go back and choose that level though. So if you did miss a mini game or a collectible that's in that world, you can go back and try to find it and not have to play through the whole thing again. But the snow globe, like, yeah, you're essentially, you're trying to get to the top of this mountain, is kind of like the gist of it. And it was, I think, one of my favorite levels. If not my favorite, I don't know though, because there's one more coming up.
Yeah, it's tied with another one, and it might be, we might have the same second favorite.
It's not the next one, because the next one is the garden, which I did love the garden.
I loved the environment of the garden.
Yeah.
But that level was very frustrating. Just
in different ways.
There was a lot going on too. There was just this invasive weed, and this was all about passion, correct?
So this was about like Cody not having, like, he had essentially given up his passion. Yeah, he had essentially given up his passion as things like started going bad in their marriage, and they moved into this house in the first place so that he could have this garden, because gardening was his passion. And he has this flower, like there's this flower that you're trying to, like, you're not only are you trying to save the whole garden, but there's this flower that you're trying to save, and he's named this flower Joy. And the reason that he named this flower Joy was because when they moved into this house, he wanted some form of joy would always be there, was, I think, the gist of it.
But he gave it up because it's revealed that he didn't feel seen or supported. He didn't feel like what he was into. He didn't feel validated by his partner to go after his passion. And the whole level, I think in this level, I did take more of a backseat because this was more of a Cody thing.
This was, it was a Cody thing, and it was kind of you supporting my passion.
Yeah, me
a little bit
supporting
more.
your passion. And throughout this level, May's character kind of realizes how important this is to Cody. And it wasn't just a silly pastime or something, because in her mind, she didn't even realize how important gardening was to him.
And I don't think it's so much that she didn't realize how important it was. I think that she was under the impression that he fell out of love with it because he stopped. And he makes a comment that like, no, like I stopped because I didn't feel supported, and it didn't feel like you weren't encouraging me. And she's thinking, in her mind, she was like, well, why do I need to encourage you? Like, it's your passion. You should just pursue it. But I think that's, and I found myself, this was, I think, one of those first levels where like, I'm really like, I think that it kind of resonated with me, just because like that's something that you and I struggle with all the time, is like finding time for the things that we're passionate about. And not so much that we like keep each other from doing those things, but like when life gets busy, it's hard to find time. It's hard to find motivation. And I think
it's easy to blame somebody else.
Yes, it's easy to blame somebody else when in reality, like we should be supporting. Well, like it's not so much that we have to like tell the other person like, oh, you have to do this, but like support them and make them feel encouraged to do these things. And so like this whole level, like you're set off trying to like reclaim Cody's garden and help him refine his passion. And
so we just have to kill this asshole vine, that like plant that's taken over the whole garden and greenhouse. And it's super frustrating, but it's fun to be tiny and outside.
Yeah.
It's like Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves.
Yeah. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves.
It's
the first one is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Right?
The second one is Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
I don't remember what the third one is. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, I think, because they have a toddler that they make giant.
Yes. So it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah. That level felt very much like that movie.
I think that there's another game that kind of takes that concept. It's like Grounded or Grounded for Life or something like that. I'll have to look into it. But my sister was recommending it to me. So
it was fun.
It's another kind of co-op game. Maybe we can look into it. But yeah, like that. So it was really fun. Like you got to ride around on spiders. You got to hop around on frogs. Candace loves frogs.
I do love frogs. We talk about frogs a lot.
Almost
on
every
this
single
podcast.
witchy frogs. Hi.
I was living my best life hopping around on these frogs, and I was like, this is made for me. If you've listened to our podcast, you know how I feel about it.
But this is interesting because this is also one of the times that I felt like there have been times throughout this game where I have found myself thinking to myself, should I be playing as May and Kandace be playing as Cody? Because like some of the character beats and some of the things that are going on, it really does feel like I was happy to be playing the way that we did, but I almost found myself like resonating with May more at times. And like, so like gardening, like that's very much more something that you would totally be into.
I was resonating with Cody so much. I was like, this is just all I want. I want this big property with this garden, and I would make it so nice. And yeah, I loved that level for that because I could really resonate with that.
And even like going into the next level, which we're going to get into in just a second, but like May's like, so it's not so much that like May has this thing that she used to like doing. It's not so much that it's a passion that she lost touch with. It's more of like they're trying to ignite this passion in her. It's like something that like deep down, I think that she loves and would love to do, but is a little afraid to do it. So it's all about Cody kind of like pushing her to pursue this and do this thing. Before we get into that though, like I said, like this really was kind of one of those moments where like I do think I almost wonder if it's intentional. Like if you're supposed to be feeling like you resonate more with the other character, I think that it puts you in this role of playing like the person who's supporting the other person doing something that you enjoy, or like I don't know, I kind of felt like that could go either way, honestly. And it was kind of nice. Like I don't know, like it was kind of nice because you feel like you are also getting a little bit more in tune or in touch with something that I know Kandace enjoys. So like my character in this game is really into this, and like I'm trying to save my garden, and it almost kind of like helps me like see your perspective on like kind of just like the gardening side of things. Like I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun. Like I found myself like we were talking throughout the whole thing, like we should totally make this like crazy fairy garden in our backyard with like all these like cool gnomes and all the fairy smut.
all the frogs and all the flower pots and all of it.
So I found myself kind of like finding interest in a passion that you have. So that was kind of a cool thing. And I don't know if this carried over for you going into the next level. So the next level is continuing this idea of passion, but it's not so much like reclaiming a passion that you had fallen out with. It's more about finding and pursuing a passion that you kind of have deep down in you. And for May, this is singing. It's music. Music is this passion.
This was a great level.
I think this is my favorite level.
It was awesome.
I think that the snow globe level is the sweetest level in the sense of like,
It's
you kind of
the most
like, it's the trip down
calming.
memory lane. Like you
Yeah.
kind of like, you get into the character's past a little bit. They're just starting to kind of flirt and get along. I think this is the first level where they really are truly supporting one another though. And things started to flip. Suddenly Kandace was playing support to me in some platforming parts of the game. And I was doing more of that. Like the things that we were doing were starting to flip. Cause like the whole reason that I'm here is so that I can help push you into doing this thing that you're afraid to do, which is performing for people.
And the aesthetic of this level was awesome because it was all music related. And were we trapped up in the attic at this point? Were we up there?
So this is the attic, and there's like there's an old record player up there, which is the stage.
The stage, yeah.
And there's just
There's wires everywhere. There's old keyboards, old pianos. It was almost like everything music related that they had in the home was kind of just shoved up in the attic for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And like just kind of lost and forgotten. And it was so interactive. We could play the real keyboard like with our bodies, like just like jumping from like key to key.
I was trying to coordinate, like Mary had a little lamb on the piano. I think at one point you might have accidentally done the Jaws theme. You could like, there was violins that you could like grind, like, so there were so many like rail grinding like parts to this game. Like you could do that on violins or like big cellos, like things like that. And like the strings would make this like actually kind of creepy noise as you would run across it. There were like, you could bounce on drums and cymbals. I literally like, I had a cymbal was like I didn't have a power, but I had a Captain America style like cymbal shield that I could use as a shield or I could throw it.
And my ability in this level was just my voice. So there was singing or like kind of shouting into a mic.
A scream, yeah.
Yeah, kind of a scream. But yeah, one of my powers was just like, like doing this little sing like at things that would make things like pop up or whatever.
So you have to go through and find all of the things that you need to make a concert though. You need a microphone, you need lights, you need speakers, you need a band, you need an audience.
Yeah.
The getting the audience, I think, was one of my favorite parts of this entire game because you are cast into this kind of like recording studio, or was this part of like the getting to the, yeah.
Yes.
So there was this part where they had these like sound pads, like 3 sound pads laid out that each had different like kind of like noises programmed into them. And you could go through and like on this like looping kind of like track, you could go through and like press different buttons in on the sound pad to like make different like sounds and beats and stuff.
We were making our own beats.
And
I was mad because you started just making the beats without me. And I was like, hang on. Stop right there. Let me finish some beats. So I like jumped on a few and it recorded, just like looped the beats that we made on these 3 different sound pads.
And it kind of like, it like turned it up to 11 and like
it became trippy.
Part of the soundtrack as you're going through this like weird tunnel slide thing. And we were hearing the music that we had just made.
We went through like a psychedelic tunnel and I don't even know what we were shooting through. But it was this psychedelic tunnel.
Was that like where it got into like the kaleidoscope thing?
It was, I don't remember. But we were going through this tunnel and yeah, the soundtrack was literally the beat that we created.
It was so cool to hear that.
And it was so just trippy. But yeah, that level was the ultimate like end to this game.
Yeah. So May, like she finally builds up the courage with the support of her husband, Cody, to perform. And I think that it kind of like, it ignites this passion. And not only like this, but I think that also realizing that there's more to life than just like she's in the beginning, her whole thing is like she's a very busy engineer, and she works all the time and doesn't have time for her family, doesn't have time for passions. And I think that she realizes like she needs to make time for these things. Like these things are more important than that. So she kind of comes full circle with that. It is a little, so I don't know, do we spoil this or do we leave? Like we've already spoiled pretty much everything else.
We spoiled the whole game.
Spoiler warning, people, for this whole entire game up to this point. So how they end up breaking the spell, they kiss. Like she performs this song and she's like singing, and like she starts floating up into the air, and it's all like magical and beautiful and
But what initiated, they started sparkling and raising up into the air, not because they kissed, but because they were fulfilled in supporting each other.
And they
were
found
friends
that,
again.
like, yeah, they were friends again. And like, that's where it kind of like, it's a little, the ending is a little ambiguous as far as, like, oh, okay, well, did they just find a way to coexist and be friends and be able to like coexist in this kind of parenting role and friendship role going forward? Or are they getting back together? It never really answers that. And I think that that's on purpose. Like it does, like when they get back to their bodies, turns out like their daughter, like because you've been like lying around catatonic for 12 to 13 hours and she's concerned about you. So she's like, you know what'll make them better and come back to life? I'm just going to buy this bus ticket and leave. So the daughter leaves. She's not in the house, and they chase after her to this bus stop, and they're all like, this was never your fault. And she's like, really? It wasn't my fault?
Are you sure? Because I'm creepy as fuck.
She was, it was, as for as many awesome, like the art style of this game was so good. And for as many great character models and animations and everything that they had, the way the little girl moves freaked me out.
So weird. She was so scary, and her voice was so scary. And I was like, ugh. I'm glad this game did not focus on this girl.
That was my least favorite part. It was just the girl.
They spent their budget doing the psychedelic tunnel and the beats and all of that. They couldn't do a good face or eye movements.
It was such a good game though. But like, yeah, it kind of leaves it a little open-ended. Like they say, like, no matter what happens, this wasn't your fault. And, like we can be friends, like me and your mom can be friends again. Like we found each other in that way again, and everything will be okay, was kind of the theme of it. I feel like it heavily hinted that like they were never out of love. I don't think necessarily. Like I think that they were just going through some stuff and not able to communicate and cope and find ways through it. I think that was, so to me, I personally
think they're back together.
I think they got back together.
I think,
otherwise, like, why did they have them kiss?
Exactly.
And also, like, as we were playing through, especially in that snow globe level, like I was feeling it. I was like snuggling up to you while we were playing, and I was like being cute with you in real life. And I was like, oh,
you were like,
I was putting off those vibes.
Yeah, it was. I
didn't want to just give you a firm handshake and be like, well, it was nice hanging out with you, friend.
And isn't that the case for so many relationships though? Is your relationship isn't dead. People just forget how to communicate.
And that's the thing. Like, so I don't believe in soulmates or anything like that, or like that two people are perfect for each other. I think that you make perfect. I think that
that was a line from the game.
Yeah.
The daughter said from the book, what did she say? Love is work.
Love is work. That's exactly right.
That's what she said.
And I think that it takes a lot of work. And I think that that's where you and I, like, we've had our trials, we've had our ups and downs, and we always, like, we work through it. And I think that that's one thing that we have going for us. And one thing I'm very thankful for is that I have somebody who, you see the importance of what we've built, and we are able to kind of work through these things. And we still, like, we have fun with each other. We're not like, I see so many couples that like by this age or this point in their life, or, like with their kids and just busy life and everything going on, like they don't make time for each other. They don't have fun in the way that I think that we do. And I think that that's really important to keep that alive. And I mean, we don't have that many years on our marriage yet. So who knows in the future if we're able to keep that going, but I hope that we do.
I think we have learned better communication. That's something that we struggled with. And everyone struggles with communication. But earlier in our relationship, that was honestly our biggest downfall. If we would ever, there was times where we were on again, off again, and it was all due to bad communication, not communicating feelings, expectations, boundaries, things like that. And over time, we're not perfect whatsoever, but we do a lot better with that.
Mm-hmm. So I talked about some moments in the game that kind of resonated with me, and I felt like really started like clicking. What were some moments that did that for you?
Well, this has been something heavy on my mind anyways, and we've talked about it on this podcast before, but just being in the moment, especially with your family and just in your life, and making times for those little things. I'm not May's character in real life, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not the breadwinner of this family that's always working overtime or anything like that. But I'm still guilty of not making time for important things, whether that be maybe I'm too busy with the kids all the time because I put a lot of my focus on putting them first and making sure that they feel seen and that I spend time with them and that they're having a great life. That I think sometimes I neglect you and I don't make that same effort with you because by the time I'm done with them, I'm almost like, oh, well, me spending time with my family is the same as giving Justin time. And it's not really the same thing.
It's not. I think that our kids have their own unique needs. And I think that you and I as individuals also have our own needs. So I think that it's important. Some people might see this as selfish. It's like, I know a lot of people, like, they just live for their kids and everything has to revolve around their kids. And like, I love our kids. I would do anything for our kids. I make sure that we put anything that we're able to into our kids. But in order to do that to its full effect, we also have to be able to make ourselves happy, make each other happy. I think that building a strong relationship and building that connection between us is just as important in the long term of taking care of our kids and making sure that they are growing up in a house of like with love.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I realize that I know that you love me and I know that you love, and I know that I love you. So I take you for granted because I just assume that you know that how I feel and that I love you.
Sometimes,
and I don't show it.
Even if I do know, even if you do know that I love you, I think it's important to go out of our way to make the other person aware of that. Even if they don't need reminded, I think that showing it is important. And that is something that
just showing the passion, showing the encouragement, giving the time, fixing your vacuum cleaner,
and also just
your toolbox.
Also just appreciating that gyat.
Yeah, the gyat, appreciating the back sides of your partner,
sides.
the side side,
the back sides, the upper back sides too.
The upper back, yeah. Ugh. I don't know about that one, but.
So do you honestly think that playing this game that you got something out of it that you can apply to our relationship?
I did a lot, and I think as dumb as it sounds, because this is just a video game, I think I will be more conscious in the future of being more intentional with you and giving you the time and encouragement and just letting you know that I see you and I appreciate you and I support you and all of that.
I'll try to do the same for you. It is like, you're right. It is just a video game, but somebody has put a lot of time and love into creating this story and making it as interactive. And I think there were so many, I feel like there are so many moments in this game that were like just designed to, like, I don't know, it almost felt like it was like designed for me. There were so many moments that, like, I hope that other people get that same feeling from it, because it really did kind of like, I just had genuine moments of like, I don't know. I found myself constantly just like reaching over, like I just wanted to be like near you, like snuggling you, or I don't know. Like there was just a lot that came like as I'm sitting here trying to think like, okay, what way do I have to jump to get out of the way of this thing? Like at the same time that all this craziness is happening on screen, my mind is going a fucking 1,000 miles per second trying to figure out like, okay, like how, like what can I do to have fun with my family tomorrow? Like what can Candace and I do to have fun? Like what?
Yeah, I felt the same way. It was so weird.
I would recommend this game, not just to couples that are struggling, because again, going back to the beginning, like I don't think that we're at a place where we're struggling. I mean, every couple has its struggles, and it will
that's not
continue
why we
to.
started it. I didn't even know what the fuck we were about to do. I was just like, okay, he's been asking me, and I'm trying to be more in the moment. Like I said, I've been trying to be. So I'm like, okay, I'll play this fucking game with you. It's the last thing that I want to do right now. And then once I started, I felt kind of dumb because you had to literally force me to play that one night, like that first night. And after I started, I was like, oh shit, this is so much fun. I'm having a great time.
See, you came around. So even if you're not a gamer, and even if you're not struggling in your relationship, hell, maybe you're not in a relationship. Maybe you're trying to find appreciation for your sibling, appreciation for another family member, a friend, anything. Maybe you just want to play a really fun game that's going to make you tear up a little bit. Play It Takes Two. Seriously. It's on so many platforms. You can literally play it on anything. I think that there's even, if you don't have somebody in like who can sit on a couch with you and play, I do believe one thing that was kind of cool about this game, and I was reading about this, EA Games incorporated this thing called Friend Pass. If you own the game, you can play online with anybody for like, they don't have to own the game. You can play with them for free.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So there's no excuse. Like if you have this game, find somebody and play it with them. As long as they have like the same console as you. I'm assuming it has to be the same console. Maybe not. I'm assuming so though. You can play with them.
That would be a crazy experience.
To get the full screen to yourself and not be tiny on a split screen. There was like one moment.
Wouldn't you still see
the split screen? No, you wouldn't at all. You would be seeing, it would be more focused on you. Remember in that last level, there were a few times where it cut out and it was just you like walking around an area of the backstage and you were like, oh, I have so much like space on screen now. It was kind of trippy. Like that's what it would be like.
Weird. I don't know. I feel like that would be harder.
Maybe. I mean, in some moments where you have to kind of see the other person's screen, I'm sure that it would kind of like back out and like give you a perspective or something that shows that. Or maybe it is split screen still. I don't know, but I don't think that it is. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend this game, though.
And I would also recommend it.
Yeah. So just get out there and play it. Even if you don't like video games, play it.
Guess maybe. I'm a gamer now.
You damn sure are. So kind of winding this down, as Candace states that she's now a gamer. How would you compare this to like just past experiences playing a game?
My experience isn't as much as yours, so I have to say this is the most fun that I've had playing, except for, was it 5th grade when me and my friend Lauren played, oh gosh, what is that game where they like shoot hookers and like ride around in cars?
Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah. We played Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and we had this collection of chapsticks that tasted like different sodas and candies. They were lip smackers, and we would play for Grand Theft Auto Vice City for like 12 hours straight and repeatedly just put on all of these chapsticks. That was a great time. Other than that time, this was probably the most fun that I've had.
I'm going to surprise you one day with a whole pack of lip smackers or whatever they're called, and we're just going to drive around beating up hookers and stealing their money.
I'm here for it.
Let's do it. How was your experience? So like normally when you are around video games, it's kind of as a backseat gamer watching me play other games. Were you happy to jump in and actually be a part of it? Do you think that you'll still be okay? Like after having experienced this game, like, are you going to want to play more frequently, or do you think that you'll still be okay with doing some backseat gaming from time to time?
So I'm going to want to play more frequently now. And I've also learned to appreciate that I need to leave people the fuck alone when they're in the middle of a hard, like, boss fight or something, because I feel like there's been so many times where I just like, you'll be playing and I'm just like, it doesn't matter, he's just playing a silly game.
No, but I'm immersed.
Yeah,
that's the thing, is like that's what games are. They're immersion, and I am immersed, and I'm in right now. Like, I'm not your husband. I'm fucking Kratos, and I'm trying to kill this god.
Well, I'll just like, there's been so many times where I just like will go find like wherever you're playing, and I'll just like get in front of the screen and be like, love me.
Look at this Instagram reel.
Why didn't you like my reel? Like, and I'll just like sit on your lap and be like, hi. And you're just like trying not to be annoyed, but you're like, can I just like finish this scene? Or I remember I interrupted like a final cut scene for you in a game so one time.
This is another reason that I play games and watch shows with subtitles on.
And you were like, this is literally like the last scene, and I felt kind of bad, but not as bad as I did last night, like when I realized, because our kids were all like watching us like wrap up this game
and
last
kind of
night,
being crazy high energy at the time.
They were like
taking us out of the sweet moment.
Yeah, it was the sweet moment, like the kiss at the end, and Milo's just being crazy. All the kids are being crazy. And I was like, oh shit, this scene would have been a lot more impactful if I were left the fuck alone right now. So I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to kind of leave Justin alone in the future if he's playing a game. So
cool.
He's like, cool. Can't wait.
I'm looking forward to being able to finish a game in peace. But I like it when you bother me though. Like, I like it when you sit next to me and do an activity while I'm gaming. I know that you've mentioned. I remember. I think it was I was playing Far Cry 5. This was years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you loved the soundtrack to this so much, and you would sit and like read your Outlander books while I was playing that game, and it kind of just put you in the mood. Like, I miss doing things like that together. I would hope that we can find experiences where you're willing to play with me now, but sometimes I'm just playing like a or like a single player game that is like, I'm just in the mode here, like doing the thing. And I love a good
soundtrack though.
I'd hope that you can plop down with a book, or even just throw your headphones in and listen to your fairy smut next to me.
I'll do that.
One piece of advice that I would give to players who are thinking of tackling this game, and this is really this is true about real life as well. We had a podcast 2 episodes ago talking about this very thing. Slow down, take it in. Not just when you're in like chaotic moments in the game. I think the reason they get so chaotic is because you try to rush through it, and like, if you kind of just slow down, think about what it is that you're doing, take time to communicate and come up with a plan with your partner, and then execute. But also in those slower levels, like the snow globe, really slow down and take in every single bit of this city, because I think that you'll kind of build a better appreciation for the game doing so.
Well, for me, the speeding up and going way too fast, it's like Mario syndrome, right?
Yes.
Because you're being timed. This game, you're not being timed, but in Mario, I mean, like, you're being timed. You have to get through this as quick as you can, or a sun is going to come like bash your brains in or something, or swoop down and kill you, or something's going to kill you.
What is the result of Mario syndrome? You do worse.
You do worse.
You get worse and worse. The more you try, the more frustrated you get, the worse it is.
And that's how it was for us. But yeah, I think once I realized, like, we're not being timed here, and we can die as many times as we want. It doesn't matter. We can slow down, and we usually were communicating better when we would slow down, coordinate better.
So what you're saying is now you'd be willing to play survival mode with me, where you can't die at all, or you have to restart the game.
No.
That doesn't exist.
I was gonna say, I would never fucking do that ever.
If that existed, I think we probably would get a divorce.
I probably wouldn't have finished the game. Like,
Fuck this game, Grandma.
Yeah, there was a few times where I died 60 times in a row. Like, I was like, I'm never, and I honestly think the game a few times felt bad for me and just pushed me along.
Yeah, it kind of just like let you kind of catch up to where I was.
It did. There were several times we were on like a Rainbow Road type level, and I kept falling off the edge at the exact same spot like 60 times in a row. And eventually it like picked me back up and put me way ahead of you. and then I won. I don't know how that happened, but the game just like knows and just feels bad.
She just needs a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've just got like one question left, and we'll kind of wrap this up here. Are there any games that you've kind of like heard about in passing, or maybe seen me play, or are just aware of that you think you would like to try playing co-op with me?
Well, I don't know what all games are co-op.
Okay. Well, I mean, just anything that's 2-player.
I don't know what all's 2 players, what I'm saying. Like, okay, I don't know enough about a lot of games that you've played to know if I can play 2-player or not.
So what you're saying is I'll need to give you some recommendations, and you'll take a more serious look at it now that I've given you this winner.
Yeah.
2021 Game of the Year winner, It Takes Two. What if I told you that there was a game that the same developer made just a couple of years before It Takes Two, and it is called A Way Out. And it's about 2 people. It's the same kind of like cooperative gameplay, like where you kind of rely on each other to do all the levels. It's 2 people breaking out of prison. It's a lot more adult themed. It's a lot more like
that sounds so gritty. Fun. I would definitely play that.
You willing to try that one with me?
We should try that next.
Okay, yeah, there we go. So yeah, we'll play A Way Out. Also by Hazelight Studios. And I don't know, maybe there's some other games I think would be fun to kind of like play with you, just for shits and giggles. I think going back and like playing through the campaign of the first Halo game is something that I was like, it'd be fun to just play it like a stupid chaotic first person shooter with you.
You just said you want to put your balls on me.
What?
In that game.
Oh yeah, I
that's the only reason why you said that would be fun. I was like, what? What kind of game is that? You just can put your balls on people?
Well, why am I spacing the fucking term for oh shit. Hold on, my old man brain, not mushroom stamping. No, it is mushroom stamping, right? Is that the term for it? When you like, so essentially you kill somebody and then you hover over their dead body and you kind of just crouch and then stand up, crouch, stand up and down, over and over again.
So would we be playing against each other? Maybe
not. Sometimes when I'm playing campaign, like I'm just an asshole and I'll kill my partner and then I mushroom stamp them.
Yeah, that was... All I heard was you were like, I want to play Halo with you so I can put my balls on you. And I was like, what? What kind of game is this?
I feel like mushroom stamping is not the term.
Isn't it like teabag?
Teabag. Oh my God.
Teabagging?
Why? Yes, it's teabagging. Why could I not think of teabagging? God damn it. Like my 12-year-old self is like, how could you not think of fucking teabagging? Mushroom stamping is like essentially the same. Mushroom stamping is like stamping your balls on someone's forehead. But I think teabag is the more appropriate gaming version.
You dip your balls into somebody?
Yeah, whatever.
That's technically what a teabag does. That doesn't make any sense.
But yes, I'll just kill you and teabag you over and over again.
I can't wait.
We'll play it for reals. I think it would be a fun, like, just kind of a throwback gaming session. Like, we'll even play with like old school graphics. I'll bust out the old Xbox. I'm not going to play the updated Master Chief version. Like, we'll just like that was like one of my first like real like co-op gaming experiences. Like I played other like Mario and like other co-op games when I was a little kid, but like that was like the first time like I was like coming into like my teen years and Halo, and that'd be fun to revisit. We'll do that.
We'll do it.
So yeah, you've heard it. You heard it here on the Cupful podcast. We're going to be teabagging and fairy smutting. I don't know. Like I really enjoyed playing this game, and I look forward to playing more with you. I want to play with you all day.
I can't wait.
Just teabagging
for the balls.
I am one of your hosts, Justin Tyler.
And I'm the other host, Kandace Tyler.
This is the Cupful podcast. If you know anybody who likes gaming or fucking needs help with their relationship, throw them this episode and recommend other ones to them as well, because we have some really great ones and we have so much good content coming up. I'm so looking forward to I've really been loving being back on track with recording and releasing. We hope that you guys are enjoying it as much as we are, but please share this with somebody and listen, please.
Bye.
Bye.